Hey guys, so I wanted to talk about the concept of forgiveness. If you've spent enough time in these new age circles, you'll run across that term a lot. You'll run across people telling you forgive, forgive, forgive a lot. Sometimes it's kind of shocking to me when it appears that a large vocal group of people has completely misunderstood a concept. And so I haven't made a video about this for a while. I've been thinking about this for like 6 months because I wanted to make sure that it wasn't I who was misunderstanding it. And I think what flipped me over here was rereading Prayer, the Art of Believing. I think this was in Prayer, the Art of Believing. It might have been in a different book, actually. I've read a couple books, a couple of Neville's books. I've reread a couple of them this week. But when I read Neville Goddard's definition of forgiveness, it made sense to me in the context of A Course in Miracles definition of forgiveness, and it also makes sense in the grander scheme of forgive, forgive, forgive about everything. The way most of us think about forgiveness is that somebody wronged us, and now we sort of have the moral superiority and get to decide whether or not that person is going to receive our mercy, or like we're going to say, oh, I know that, you did this bad thing, but I'm going to be the bigger person and, recognize your error and let it go and allow you back into my good graces or whatever. That's kind of how we all think of forgiveness, I think. But my understanding of forgiveness from A Course in Miracles is different. It's a lot different from that. It's not that you forgive somebody for their human mistake. It's that basically you view that person as not having done anything at all because this is all a huge illusion. It's not even real, essentially. So when somebody does something that incites all these feelings of whatever, anger, sadness, hurt, all that stuff, the forgiveness is not in recognizing the act that happened supposedly in this 3D reality. It's shifting your mind to see that it never really happened at all, because this isn't really real, and we're all basically just a part of this greater God concept, and what's happening here in 3D is essentially irrelevant and to be ignored. And so I found that concept really interesting, because for me, that's really the only way that there's a true release of feelings. And you can forgive somebody in that way. You can look at someone who has done something, that you would consider to be terrible to you and say, okay, I recognize that that was an illusion. That person's acting within this illusion. None of this is really real. And it gives you this feeling of kind of like just letting it go. And that doesn't mean, and I learned this one the hard way in my 20s. About 20 years ago, I was reading A Course in Miracles, read about forgiveness, completely misunderstood it, took it in the normal way that we all take forgiveness. And I spent 4 years with an abusive boyfriend who I continually forgave in the human sense and just allowed to continue to abuse me. Every time he did something horrible, I said, okay, I'm supposed to forgive this. I'm supposed to see him as this like innocent person. And so I did that and stayed in the relationship until finally I just realized there is no freaking way that this can be what that meant. And if it is, I don't care. Then I'm not holy. Then I don't give a shit. All I want is to be away from this asshole. So, misunderstanding that concept and being told to forgive, 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 I think produces a lot of confusion and a lot of poor outcomes for people in the 3D. What tied this together for me with Neville was Neville's definition of forgiveness, which you may be surprised to find out is simply revision. It's going back to the scene of the crime, so to speak, and imagining it the way you would have liked it to play out. Imagining it differently, experiencing it in your imagination differently. That is Neville Goddard's definition of forgiveness, which I was very surprised to read. He's got a lot of little one-line gems. If you don't read all of his stuff, it's really hard to tie together the grander picture of what he was trying to convey to people. It's hard to take an indescribable knowing, something that's been given to you via revelation, and then translate it through your human voice and thoughts and all of that so that it can be conveyed to somebody else. It's nearly impossible. So, but the best chance you have is, one, live your life, get some experience. Two, if you're trying to understand Neville or anybody else, don't just cherry pick what they're saying, to mean what you want it to mean. Actually read everything with an open mind and try to tie it all together and figure out what it means. So Neville says that forgiveness is revision. So basically he's saying nearly the exact same thing as A Course in Miracles. It's basically recognizing that this, the past didn't really happen. This is all an illusion. Nothing here is as it seems. Ignore the 3D. His advice is to ignore the 3D in terms of its significance on whatever you're trying to manifest in your life. Don't allow your 3D senses to determine what you believe is happening or can happen. And so this is kind of the same thing. You're going back and just rewriting what happened because it's not real. It only exists in your mind. It doesn't exist in reality. It's just something that can be rewritten. So it's very similar to the forgiveness in the Course in Miracles, where basically you're just saying that's an illusion. That's not real. It's a really interesting concept and something that's really freeing, and something that when you employ it over and over again, it just sort of automatically, habitually gets you more into defaulting to the reality that there is no reality, defaulting to looking at things as not being concrete the way you have probably your entire life, which frees you from so much and opens up so many possibilities and changes your perception so much. But I just wanted to make this video because of the confusion surrounding the term forgiveness, which is all over the place. It's all over the place. So you think about that, you think about those two things. Maybe go look for it in Neville. I'm sure if you Google Neville forgiveness, it'll come right up. You can read about it in A Course in Miracles and see if that makes sense to you based on your experience and based on the experiences that are coming up right now. And if you have one in your life where you feel like, you're being presented with this urge, you're being urged to forgive in the traditional human sense. Try to look at forgiving in this other way. And see what kind of change that creates inside you from a feeling perspective. Because that's what really matters. It's the inner orientation that determines everything. So I hope that helped and made sense. I'm especially interested in comments on this topic if you have any. So please leave them. Thanks.